Love Therapy Animals here. Today I'm here to talk to you about the 5 top myths that I can think of regarding alcohol use. At the end, I share a bonus truth that I think is the most important thing you need to know about. If this is your first time on my channel and you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. All right, let's get into it. Starting with number 5, alcohol addiction is psychological. Who's heard this doozy and thinks that alcohol addiction is nothing more than a lack of willpower? The truth is, alcohol is an addictive substance which creates chemical changes within your brain. While it's true that alcohol has a psychological component to its abuse, many people use it to self-medicate for things like insomnia, depression, anxiety, etc. This chronic use creates chemical changes within your brain that actually create the physical dependency in addition to the psychological component. Additionally, the chronic use also creates chemical changes which actually makes compulsion to use alcohol much more likely. Now, myth number 4, alcohol is good for your heart. This myth has been around as long as I can remember, and there might actually be some truth to it when you have your blinders on. Reality is, most researchers do not understand or know the mechanism that could be involved when the studies show some of these beneficial effects. Research also shows that the mild beneficial effects you get from alcohol can easily be obtained from other sources like diet, exercise, proper medication, etc. It's also important to note that the positive effects that has been seen in past studies, this can only be attained with the smallest amounts of alcohol. Anything more than this small amount in moderation lead to obesity, diabetes, liver diseases, cancers. Using alcohol for any medical benefit in reality just doesn't make sense when you look at the research and look at the damage that it can do to you. Next, myth number 3, if you don't drink every day, you don't have an alcohol use disorder. You're not an alcoholic. While most occasional drinkers do not have alcohol use disorder, I suspect that many people actually do not know the criteria for an alcohol use disorder. And this is important to know because we've already kind of discussed the chemical changes that alcohol causes in your brain. Did you know that you would likely be diagnosed with an alcohol use disorder for conditions like drinking more than you intended when you started drinking, engaging in any risky activity whatsoever, giving up things like going out on the weekend in order to drink, or having drinks to calm anxiety or depression? What you should take away from this is that the daily intake of alcohol is not what determines if you have an alcohol use disorder. This should only be determined by a doctor and with the use of the Diagnostics and Statistics Manual for Mental Health Disorders. You can see the full list of criteria from the DSM in the links below, as well as all the other sources for information of the myths that I talk about. On to number 2. The second biggest myth I know is that alcohol is beneficial in reducing anxiety for things like going out, meeting new people, first dates, etc. I'm sure most of you have heard this before. Probably even received advice, hey, have a drink to take the edge off or be able to speak more comfortably, whatever. The reality is alcohol does give you a temporary boost in your mood. However, the chemical changes to your brain actually leads to more anxiety both while drinking and afterwards. It should also be noted that 20% of people with anxiety are also diagnosed with an alcohol use disorder. If anxiety is a concern for you, talk with your doctor. Don't use alcohol to act as a medication for your anxiety. Now, my number 1 myth is that alcohol is not a drug. This myth is actually one of the most dangerous that I know of. Alcohol is legal, it's freely available, and it's socially acceptable. All the things that drugs aren't supposed to be. Well, the fact is, alcohol is actually a psychoactive depressant with a strong addictive component. The reason most people don't consider alcohol a drug is because it's not prescribed for any legitimate medical purpose. There are only a few known medical uses for alcohol, which include being used as an external disinfectant, a diluent for other drugs, and to kill nerves for pain treatment via injection. Alcohol is primarily used to kill biological entities. And for those of us that aren't particularly science-minded, we are all biological entities. All right, so that was my 5 top myths, my own personal opinion. Now, the most important bonus myth that I think that you need to know about. Have you ever heard the myth that addicts need to hit rock bottom in order to give up their addiction? Well, that's bullshit. While many people do, in fact, hit rock bottom, you do not need to lose your job. You do not need to ruin your marriage. You do not need to get into a vehicle accident in order to kick your addiction. This type of programming is not helpful at all. You can quit as soon as you know you have a problem. You just need to be ready and willing. I'm a perfect example of not having to hit rock bottom. I recognized that I was having a problem and took action on it finally. That being said, if you're watching this video and you're wondering if you have a problem, you already know the answer to that is likely yes. So get help. Do it. All right, if you or somebody else you know has an alcohol use disorder, hopefully videos like this will be useful in starting a conversation, opening the door in order to get help for your addiction. Don't believe everything you hear on the internet or old wives' tales. Research the myths yourself. There's plenty out there. All the links for the sources, just in the few that I talked about, are in the description below. This video is not meant to be alcohol is terrible, nobody should drink it, you're a terrible person if you drink it sort of thing. This is simply information so that people who ingest the substance can go out there and research it on their own. Know that there's a lot of bull, a lot of made up facts about alcohol floating around out there. All right, like all my videos, I'd like to remind you that quitting alcohol can be dangerous. You need to consult with your doctor prior to doing so. You can have very serious or even deadly consequences for going through alcohol withdrawal. So this is LTA signing off. Please hit like, comment, subscribe. Check out the community tab. You can post questions to anything regarding this video or any of my others in those locations, and I'll get back to you. Share this video with anybody you think might need help or could use this knowledge. Oh, before we go, I get this all the time. People ask me how I edit my videos. I actually just use my Macintosh. It's a pretty simple process.